Today I'm going to review the video of the vegan that will never give me a copyright strike. And you may guess that it's myself. And we're going to look into the video that one of my subscribers suggested I review. And the video is how to convince people to go raw vegan. Relatives are against raw veganism. What to do? I haven't seen this video since I posted it, which happened on October 9th, 2023. So it was a year and a half ago. Let's indulge. You all know that I have a Raw Form of Life Instagram page, so please go follow me on Instagram because there I not only post some bite-sized information, but I also carry out live streams. And actually during those live streams, when the audience is given a chance to ask questions in real time, I often see this recurring theme of how do I convince my relatives to try raw vegan diet, or how do I convince my relatives to go raw. And the second thing is, how do I convince my relatives that it's okay that I'm a raw vegan? How do I make people accept my life? This is actually a big thing because there are two facets to that, right? And I think I will be talking about in this video. But there is a thing that a lot of people have relatives who are genuinely concerned about them being a raw vegan. And not just because it's some obscure lifestyle, because generally when you're doing well, people are like, wow, you're doing well. How did you do that? For some reason, when people are raw vegan, their relatives become alarmed. They don't look at them and they're like, wow, you're doing so great. Share about your lifestyle. Share more information about it. Teach me how. They're like, are you okay? And actually, I relatively recently met the guy who is fruitarian raw vegan and who does colonics to cope with his lifestyle. It's insane. Like, you can literally just tell. It's the glands, it's the body, it's the skin tone, it's the eyes, it's the teeth, it's everything. And it's like physique, everything, despite the fact the guy spends days in the gym. It's so clear. And he said also that he met a girlfriend his girlfriend is vegan, normal cooked vegan, started eating more cooked vegan foods, and his parents became more at peace with him following his vegan lifestyle. He's been vegan for I don't remember, many years. So today I would like to discuss both of these issues, and I will start with the first one, convincing someone to try literally anything. My stance on this is very precise, and I will give a concise answer because I practice this. I encountered this issue so much in my life, and this is literally what I've done to simplify my life and literally make it so much better and so much more rewarding. Whenever you feel compelled to school or teach anyone anything without being asked several times with enthusiasm by the person that you're trying to teach, this means that you are not working enough on your own life. Bravo, I still stand for this. It's so amazing. When I go through my adventures, my lifestyle adventures, I'm still happy. I'm very happy that there are core things that don't change. The motivation for changing lifestyles and experimenting with different things. And I guess, there is some set of beliefs, some set of practices that make it ecological. I think more ecological than they could be. I'm very happy to see this consistency. And after quitting raw veganism, I don't know, this is my close to end stage veganism actually, this period of time. In November, everything started going absolutely nuts. November, December, January, February, it was my cliff. So this is me approaching the end stage veganism here. This video was filmed. And it's interesting because maybe at that point I already started eating the humble pie. I'm not really sure. But I think I might have been having some doubts at that point. And this is where my attitude comes from. Or perhaps it's been like that. I don't know. Because this video, again, I filmed towards the end of my raw vegan career. But I still agree with that. After quitting veganism, I'm even more strongly convinced that this rule applies. I believe that we all exist in homeostasis. And it's only Like whatever initiative you want to perform in life should either serve your desires, your personal desires, aspirations, and your vision, how you like manage resource and such, or you are addressing enthusiastically expressed desires directed at you from somebody else. That's it. No further effort is needed. You have some codependency that you're very willingly going and following somebody else's manipulations and so on and so forth, because we all know about those stories about some ladies sitting there and crying how everything is bad, but should you offer them solution, they're just like, no, I don't need solution, I just want to complain. That is also very true. Some people just play games. And when you witness it over and over and over and over, you're like, you realize that there are better applications of energy if you have some know-how. Again, the context that it's raw veganism that will be the salvation is probably a stretch, but I have always been, why I'm so happy, why my conscience is clear, is because I always preach the spectrum, the health spectrum. And I mentioned that even we will be maybe looking at my interview with Janet D'Onofrio, Misfit Vegan. Even in that thing, I mentioned that wellness is a spectrum. Wellness diets are a spectrum. For some people, just quitting to eat processed foods will give them 99% success. For some people, going through, let's say, some personalized food sensitivity test and identifying what's wrong, what foods from like normal, non-processed foods don't work for them, will be an extra step, some step towards optimizing their lifestyle. For some people, it will be elimination of grains, some high lectin foods, for example. For some people, it will be whatever triggers from some inflammatory foods, whatever it is. But I always preach that it's not necessarily the raw veganism that will be the solution. I have been puzzled my entire raw veganism term. I have been puzzled about why it worked for what it did to me, until I realized that yes, I eliminated a lot of foods that were dysfunctional. I introduced a lot of mineral-rich foods. So I did some fine shifts and mostly, again, focused on elimination. I came to raw veganism from the perspective of a person who witnessed how like people in their 20s already have chronic diseases. People in early 30s already are on pills. Eating fairly casual diets. Like for blood pressure, for whatever, some like blood sugar management. It's not normal. That's why I was searching. Raw vegan diet is a plant-based version of fully unprocessed diet. That's why it brings results, right? So if you are getting trapped in these situations over and over and over and over, this means that you probably need to go talk to a therapist or figure it out on your own and break the ties with the desire to go and improve somebody else's life. And the best solution for that, to not do the wrong thing, is to occupy all of your time with doing the right and productive thing. Again, there will be a community of people. There will be people who will be paying you with immense gratitude, even with money, for the smallest bits of advice and wisdom that you will share with them when they need it. And this is the community and people in the audience that you should seek. Not precisely whatever it is. Try, like, if you learn something, try going, sit at Starbucks, join someone, and start teaching them something. No, that's not how it works. At the same time, it's a very hard question, because sometimes people say something when you're not necessarily ready for that. It kind of like sinks in your unconscious, and then months later you're like, oh, now I understood something. Wasn't there some lady who mentioned that to me? Or was it always my own knowledge? So these things also happen. So I don't know. But I guess I'm mostly talking here about some like parasitic connections, because you probably, if you are of certain personality, if you come from certain kinds of relationships, you probably had experience with people who like cherish their victimhood. When they cherish their victimhood, when it becomes like the major contributor to their personality and their lifestyle, then yeah, there are some people who will be sucked into maintaining that. I think there's even some name for certain syndrome because it gives you power over that person. If you are that source of energy, validation, of victimhood for someone, you become a very powerful, no, kind of like in a perverted fashion, you become a very powerful person in the eyes of that victim. And you don't want to ditch that leverage that you have over that person as you imagine it to have. But at the same time, it's mutually parasitic behavior, mutually parasitic interaction, because you are busy doing something that doesn't make sense, and that person sits and does, instead of solving the problem, just cherishes their problem. Not people who will spend hours delightfully complaining about their problems, and you will be like, but there is a solution. Look at me. I found the solution. Listen to me. Those people, they do not need the solution. You should admit that. They will be creating situations in which they will over and over and over and over recreate this scenario of victimhood. They will perpetuate their own suffering, and there will be no one on the planet Earth who will ever be able to fix this pattern for them. So your role is to exit this. And the best way to do this is to occupy your life with exciting and rewarding and nurturing things. Absolutely. The thing might sound cocky, like the one that I said in the beginning of this passage. Like, look at me type of thing. But again, no, that's that's the nature of any coaching and influencership, I guess. It's just natural part of that. But the thing is that, yeah, if it's not your job to give advice, to perform any form of coaching, then yeah, if instead of living your life, you try to find satisfaction and some validation through fixing the unfixable, then yeah, it's just dumb. I.e., you just will be working on improving your own life. This is a very important distinction. Only help people that are interested in being helped, even if you see how your some like people who are you're intimately or by blood related to, because I mean, they're all people, they have their own destiny, they choose their own destiny. You serve your purpose by just being in their field. Precisely. I don't know, I'm agreeing with my own raw vegan self. It's amazing. You are being in their field with all the information that you can convey to them, that you can share. You're doing your part. If they are not enthusiastic in contacting you through this part, it's not your job. It's very hard. It's a very super hard task, because sometimes it's actually, another thing is so funny. I got into the studies of roles in life, right? So you have, in certain relationships, you have precisely set functions. So you come in relationships with your husband. If you start like this daily role playing of you being a mother to your husband, or being a teacher to your husband, being a coach to your husband, then you are, at those moments, you are no longer a wife for your husband. Same with kids. If you try to like swap the responsibility balance and make your children responsible for you, or you are trying to, I don't know, whatever, establish some ill power balance with your children, in those moments, you are no longer a parent to your children. Your children cannot be children to you. This might be a very simplistic way to look at it, but this thing works in a lot of scenarios. When you try to swap certain hierarchies, when you try to swap certain predefined roles, because as dumb as it is, humans are very robotic. And our system, our stable homeostatic system, is pretty rigid, actually. And so within this rigid system, if you try to become not a daughter to your parent, for example, but to be a coach, your parent's natural desire will be to just close their ears and not listen, or swap the role into victimhood. And then from that victimhood, they will be more childish, they will be more irritated, and so on, because you are not in the position of a paid professional coach to your parent, for example, or any other relative. And so this thing, it does work in real life. I experimented with that so much because I've been in those perverted relationships multiple times, whether the initiative to enter those relationships was coming from me or I was manipulated into them. It's very draining and absolutely not rewarding. And the worst part that you can be telling, for example, some person from your surroundings, like intimate surroundings, that you need to be taking B12 if you're vegan. You need to be taking B12 if you're vegan. You need to be taking B12 if you're vegan. They will not hear because you are not in the relationship where you would be heard as a specialist who can convey this information. And then you show them a video of some MD, and they're like, oh, I just realized I haven't been taking B12 as a vegan. How dumb it is. I'm urgently going and buying myself a B12 supplement. This literally happened in my life. I could not deliver that information because I was not in the proper position to do so. That freaking works, even if it's the most common sense. It's like that rule that when you are at the interview or somewhere, wherever you're, like wherever you will be asked, answer only the questions that you were asked. This rule seems to apply even in relationships. There are certain like functions and certain like degrees at which we can perceive people. I remember also when I was 5 or 6 years old in Russia, elementary school starts at 7. And I remember before I went to elementary school, I was, 6 years old. It was summertime, my last summer holidays. So peaceful, without any schooling, without any homeworks. My mom decided that I needed to learn to solve mathematical problems. And I remember I fought so much against that my mom eventually gave up. She stopped bugging me with that thing. I could not perceive anything from my mom that was teaching. I could not perceive teaching from my mom. I wanted my mom to play my mom's role. I could not, absolutely could not comprehend, receive, and calmly and appreciatively receive the message that she was conveying to me. I just could not. It irritated me to no end. This happens with other relatives too. Forget. Again, whenever you feel like you want to school someone or offer a solution, don't do this unless people explicitly ask you, what do I do? Can you help me? I am going to do this. Unless you see this enthusiasm, don't do this. With raw veganism even, I was saying in my videos that if you know, you are confident that you want to be a raw vegan, I can show you the methodology of being raw vegan. I can help you to give you some tips on how you can eat raw foods. I'm not here to convince. I am literally here to report on the experiment that I am conducting on myself. And I'm showing the methodology, how I conduct that, and I'm reporting on the outcomes and facets of this phenomenon. I always was very explicit on that. I never said that everyone must be raw vegan. Never. And my mission also was to save people from fatal mistakes that they can make while going raw vegan. When they go on very extreme diets, when they start detoxing. So that was my raw vegan mission, actually, to bring more awareness of the raw vegan diet that does not lead to extreme weight loss, because again, I gained weight a little bit compared to my pre-raw vegan state. I was against people shrinking down to some absolutely extreme thinness. I was against people who were denying nutritional science, who were denying nutrients, who were denying vitamins, protein, and everything like that. I was against people who were preaching detoxes, who were preaching very invasive procedures. I was against a lot of nonsense that existed around raw veganism. That was my mission as a raw vegan. Absolutely stand for what I'm saying in this video, 100%. you see that they're more enthusiastic about complaining about their issues, let it be their life. Don't bother. So, like, if you don't have to try more than once, let's say, right? Because, of course, there will be some people who are shy. But then if they're shy to ask for something, why are they not shy to sit and complain for an hour, right? So, this is the first facet of the situation. Then, how do I make my relatives accept my lifestyle? And this is a tricky thing, because when a person from some bound community, from some bound piece of part of society starts doing something extravagant, starts making some different obscure life choices suddenly, and they're often associated also with like mindset shift and so on and so forth, this causes people to panic a little bit. So there will be, of course, some factor that will be causing people to retain you in their bubble, retain you in their community. This is especially noticeable if you travel to the countries where familial ties are very strong. You cannot do anything. It's not just food. It's literally anything. Anything that's different, you are not allowed to do. I've been to countries like that. I talked to people who live there, and it is a very common thing that you will be doing only what your family approves of you doing. You have multiple generations of doctors in your family, and you decide to become filmmaker, so everybody will be against you doing that. But maybe you have a talent for filmmaking, and you were the first brave one to pursue something different in your family. So you're going to propel the evolution of your family by contributing to happiness, fulfillment, and creative development. But this will go against your family, so that's what it is about. But before we jump into how to handle that, and actually another thing is, very overweight family. Every family member is overweight. They're like, oh, it's just genetic. No, it's not. You have very uniform lifestyle. You all share the eating habits. You all matched based on some psychological trauma together. You are all reinforcing, maintaining your lifestyle. Also, when you start doing something, trying to eat healthier, can also be a very weird thing there. It's almost impossible, and cutting the ties with that tightly knit community of like-minded people will be very, very difficult, even if you pursue health. Again, in this time frame, I believe that raw veganism is the answer, because it's the peak of whole food diet. And again, if you think in terms of that plant-based diet is healthy, then yeah, raw veganism is the healthiest it can be. I believe that raw veganism still is far superior over normal vegan diet. Again, as I say in many of my videos, normal vegan diet failed me way before raw veganism. Raw veganism, again, is far superior, in my opinion. The raw vegan diet that I was doing. I was not fruitarian, it was high raw, high green, high seed, high nut. I'd like you to think about the following. Yes, community can be restricting your self-development. Yes, it can happen. But also community can help you a big deal. Because you really need to know which people from your surroundings are sincerely caring about you, and which people in your surroundings are envious and they have some hidden, not so constructive intents towards you. This is also interesting. I mean, I don't know, let me know in the comments if you had some toxic relatives who would be not purposefully, maybe not so with so much awareness, but instinctively, in some unconscious level, trying to stall your performance. I don't know if there are some instances like that. Maybe in friendships it's more common rather than in families. But there are families that, yes, they are interested. If, for example, narcissistic parents will do everything to keep you inside of their life, because you are there, some tentacle of them, and they experience life largely through you. They need you to experience life. They need you to feel something in life, to be validated through you. So there are scenarios like that. They may be rare, and I will be discussing some details on that later, but it exists. So that's why I covered this in this video. So you need to delineate that. But there are circumstances in which interference from your family, relatives, from some friends will be invaluable.
Preach.
And this I'm talking about when people start killing themselves with certain dietary choices, with certain lifestyle choices. There are
Precisely.
numerous. Precisely. Yes, again, my lifestyle changed, my ethics didn't. It's always been about that. It's so cool to see that I was always on top of the issue that this thing can be hella dangerous. I don't know when I became aware of that, but it always was an experiment. I'm so happy that it happened. I don't know how many years I would keep pushing raw veganism if I did not have the mentality that it is a potentially dangerous lifestyle, and if I did not have a mentality that there's something off with that. And this proves to me that I was never full-heartedly confident in this lifestyle. I still had questions. Again, I was a little bit conflicted. This is so important. I feel like it's so cool to try different lifestyles. But it's so dangerous to treat them as religions, as something that you need to, like you get baptized into this lifestyle, and this means that you're going to push no matter what. I was on the call with one guy. He goes to certain not religious, it's starts with K, organization, school, whatever, club it is. And he told me that the best advice he can give to me is for me to find some school of thought, some philosophical school, and adhere to it no matter what. And if I was dumb, if I didn't have critical thinking, I would probably accept this advice coming from a very authoritative, I would say, a very up there person, and I would probably screw myself up, because I don't know if there is any school of thought on planet Earth, any artificially created school of thought, any set of dogma that you must adhere to no matter what. Life will always challenge you on something that you are the most passionate about. This is the lesson that I learned. If you are extremely passionate and that serious about something, life will always throw you in the mud and will show you that you were wrong. That you did not see some flaw, some detail, some small thing, and that small thing will screw you up. This is what I learned in life so far. That's why I am drifting towards agnosticism. But again, I don't believe in full agnosticism. I feel like it's still reasonable to take into account the circumstance of the objective reality and certain cause and effect that you already learned through previous experience and natural laws. But beyond that, in the conditions of ever-changing circumstances, of ever-changing life around us, of ever-changing understanding of things, different automations that we develop, different understandings that we develop, we cannot stay rigid and stick to our beliefs no matter what. Stories on how people go to some cults, go to some sects, and then it's only their relatives that by seeding some doubts about what is happening to that person in the cult, when they start destroying themselves, destroying their life, losing their financial stability, when they start losing their health, their mental health. In this case, relatives do help. So whenever you see that more and more people start showing concerns about you being on this diet, maybe go and critically revisit what you're doing. Because there are some circumstances in which people literally, without researching this diet, especially when they go on this diet through spiritual reasons, they focus so much on all those ethereal things, they don't study this lifestyle, they don't study the biochemistry, they don't study nutrition, and they do nonsense. And so it may happen that you already have dystrophy, you didn't just lose excess fat, but you lost essential fat, you look dehydrated, you look exhausted, you're losing muscle mass, your skin became discolored, your skin became pale. You see, I already saw that. October 2023. I wonder who I kept in mind when I was mentioning the cult. I don't know. But at that point, I think I started getting kind of disturbed by the raw vegan community because, again, I got noticed and they started, because I have scientific degree, so I was a very valuable asset for that, for marketing this lifestyle. I think I got more and more exposed to different people. But of course, I think back then I also was witnessing Shane Sterling and stuff that he was doing. And another thing that, as my channel kept growing, I started getting exposed to more subscribers, followers, and I started receiving questions, and some of those questions were very disturbing. And some of the videos that people were sharing with me were also very disturbing, when people would go on some infinite juice fast, some mono juice fast, and start exhibiting signs of being very severely unwell. It was quite bad. And when also people were talking about all this ascension, I think it might have been the time when I discovered that Shane Sterling actually descended from, like, imagine, I mean that Shane Sterling's premise for his diet actually stemmed from certain cult that preached that ascension happens through clean bowels. So it's like animophilia cult, I guess. So that maybe that gave me an impression of that. I don't know. I was already very aware of vegan deterioration happening in many people. You show all those signs of anemia, dark circles around your eyes, your skin becomes dry, brittle, your nails become brittle, they don't look healthy, your dental health deteriorates, your hair falls out, your eyebrows are receding, your eyes pop, and you have this overall very low level of energy. You, in this case, you need to probably hit the doctor's office and do extensive blood work to see if you have any nutritional deficits, and you probably surely do. And in this case, community and communal interference is very helpful, because this is how you can alter your approach to this lifestyle, because it's not just do whatever as long as it's raw and be mega spiritual and have faith and everything will work. No, it's not like that. In fact, precisely. Many people come to this lifestyle in the moments of not just like health related concerns, but in the moments of spiritual desperation in which their identity is being shattered. And this is where a person is the most vulnerable, and without proper support from the people who genuinely care about your proliferation and thriving, you may fail. So in this case, yes, treat this interference as a blessing for you. And again, at that point, I did not know that any raw vegan diet is a bad idea. Any vegan diet is a bad idea. So this is I'm yet to discover. But yeah, this thing that I am now so weary about any specialty diets right now, because all of them, they have some assumptions in them. They have assumptions. Cooked carnivore diet, for example, like very restrictive diet. You see all this madness online about, I want to talk about carnivore community too, because it's literally the mirrored veganism in many cases. And it still runs on assumptions that this will be fine, this will be fine, this will be fine, this will be fine, as long as you don't eat a gram of carbs and stuff like that. Because this biochemistry will adjust. It's so identical to veganism that your biochemistry will adjust. Yeah, even though, carnivore people, they last way longer. But I'm still very weary of that. When there is a strict elimination of entire food groups, I am kind of not getting there. And it is totally cool to accept your mistakes. It is totally cool to run the optimization process. Why does this video sound like farewell to my raw veganism? I have no idea. It's so funny. I'm so curious to see what was happening. I think in November, I was posting that my injury was not healing, and I started seeing that I would take selfie and I would be like, fuck. Is it me? In September was when my injury happened. I don't know. But I'm sounding like I'm literally about to quit veganism there. Even though I quit it after all, I quit in April only. or end of March. Problem again, it's totally normal. We don't know everything in advance. So if you notice the signs that you may be wrong, it's good to catch it before it's too late. And then another thing is, psychologically, you must think about, are you enduring your lifestyle or are you enjoying your lifestyle? Because when people see that you're living this ascetic lifestyle, when you are living in constant abstinence, because usually abstinence on planet Earth and people generates rather pride and narcissism rather than calmness and tranquility. When people see that psychologically you're drifting somewhere where you start ignoring lots of important areas of life, this also might be a sign that you might get a little bit more grounded. Yeah, so in this case, communication with your relatives and their concern about your lifestyle are totally based. You should show gratitude to them and embrace what they have to say and take actions to resolving it. And the example here, I read this page, it's my guilty pleasure. I read this page, Carnivore Cringe. And the girl, she's a vegan person. She posts snippets, screenshots from carnivore forums, carnivore discussion boards. And what I read there is also very, it's very on theme what sometimes happens in any dietary system that is related to abstinence, that is related to some higher belief than just yes, I wanted to mention that page. Actually, that page, Carnivore Cringe, it's a pool of messages that are sourced from the carnivore Reddit, from different carnivore pages, with questions of people who struggle on carnivore diet, on cooked carnivore diet, which I don't know how people can do long term, really, because I don't know how people can eat cooked meat in the entire time and be well. I just don't understand that. I can't imagine that, to be honest. It's very weird because it's such a dehydrating lifestyle. The word that comes to my mind is it's dehydrating, primarily. And I also saw Mikhaila Peterson, and she says that, there are mistakes that can be done in a carnivore diet, and you need to start eating rocks if you have problems like that. How can a healthy diet require you to eat chemically produced rocks? How? And she's regarded as one of the authorities, some role models in carnivore community. So I'm conflicted, very conflicted with that. Nutrition. And so many people write that they have the guys help what to do. I eat this and this and this and this, so they list all the animal products that are typical protocol for carnivore diet, and they complain, for example, that they have every day they would have migraines and bloody stools, but overall they feel amazing and they wouldn't want to quit on this diet. That's very true. That's very true. At this point, it's already fanatic attitude, and this is religious belief that people adhere to. It can be, again, any practice. When it starts being Cirque du Soleil, when it starts being with all of those craziest symptoms that are definitely not the reflection of good health, with needing to buy supplements to just function. And without those supplements, without those products of chemical industry, a person just doesn't function anymore. This is total madness. I still agree with you, my past self. Time to ditch this higher purpose, higher ideology behind the dietary system, and actually go and see what science has to offer, because this is the dangerous path. And usually people are supportive. They're like, keep going. It's just a detox. My God, it's that carnivore detox is another thing that's so identical to raw veganism. It's so identical. And let's keep going, keep pushing. You're doing a great job. This accountability thing, I just can't. That's literally carnivore bread, carnivore chocolate, and all of that are the things that repel me from carnivorism so much. Like carnivorism like that. Carnivorism is a diet. It's an American movement. Not carnivorism in a way that you just eat certain fraction of animal products in your diet. which is by definition carnivorism, that you rely on animal products. That carnivore diet, American carnivore diet, or Western carnivore diet, that is what repels me from it so much. When you see all that, you're like, no, guys, I've already been there, thanks. But no, actually, what I want to say is that I never was, even when I was raw vegan, some principal thing that I observed was that I did not want any replica foods. To me, I accepted the idea that I'm eating plants for what plants are. And I'm loving plants that I'm eating. So that was my principle when I was raw vegan. Right now, what I'm eating what those foods are. I'm enjoying meat for being meat. I'm enjoying plant foods for being those plant foods. I'm not enjoying them for being replicas. When I see replicas, it's ED. When people start like trying to consume something that it is not, then it is already an ED. Overall, when you have macronutrient cravings, that's already fucked up. Important to recognize. No, guys, if it's healthy, health is not subjective. Health cannot be weird. Health is health. Health is beautiful. Health is sexy. Health is radiant. Health is energetic. Health is very prolific and productive. If you have something that is not health, then there's a sign to go and take care of this area of your life, of your health and well-being. So don't be like people who write on those forums, right? So I believe that raw veganism will heal everything. I just need to push. We saw what happens to people who push despite all the common sense saying that they are in trouble. So this is a very important thing, and you need to, again, go to your relatives, listen to what they have to say, go critically without any dysmorphia, because, anorexic people, they don't see their slimness in the mirror. They see that they're very fat. So people who want to generate some, eternal youth, who want to become some super enlightened monk, they also won't see the truth in the mirror. That's very true as well. That's so true. The body dysmorphia in general is a huge thing in our society. It goes both ways. Not both, multiple ways it goes. In general, dysmorphia, having the wrong idea of who you are, what you are, how you should look, how you should appear, what you see in the mirror, whether it's normal or not. These things are super common. Super common. It's a big issue in the society. And yeah, there are people who say that, for example, there are people who do all sorts of detoxes, they become incredibly frail, and they say that this is how human body is supposed to look like. This is the best response to that everybody who has any muscle, any fat on their body, they're just looking in accordance to some social stereotype. And a real human body should be, for example, insanely thin and nearly skeletal. Some people think that if they become nearly skeletal or very gaunt, even if they keep the body mass, that they look bad, but their insides at the same time are really in supreme shape. That is another thing. They can be tired, they can be fatigued, they can be so detached from their body, but they know that on paper this is supposed to be very healthy. Like when we think about veganism specifically, they read that on paper this is a super healthy diet. With all the push when you go on any pop media about nutrition, they will all say that vegan and plant-based. They say plant-based, vegans just extrapolate plant-based onto full abstinence from animal products. This is a super healthy thing. And they will be looking in the mirror and they will be like, okay, I'm doing something healthy, hence what I'm seeing in the mirror is super healthy. Excellent plan. So this is what happens. You think that it's healthy, you know that it's healthy, so whatever happens, you're justifying by you being imperfect. This is how the mind works, because you know that some pop article, some guru that you like, told that this is what's supposed to happen. So you need to go and use analytical tools that medical system has to offer. And again, nutrition is biochemistry. You are material body. You are biochemical entity. You're not just mind. You cannot control literally everything with your mind and some meditations and mental work. No, it's not. It doesn't work like that. That's also, by the way, it's again. I'm so shocked that it's October, because it was after that video when I was already having some troubles and I tried to understand what was happening with me because something was wrong. And I think I did some leap of mental work. Maybe I was not inspired at all to do that. I don't know. I think I actually didn't have any motivation to do that anymore. But I was trying to see like where I could improve my lifestyle. I don't know. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't act on anything at that point. I lost all steam for that, I think. Asset of that is if you are with people who literally tell you to, do you really not want to eat this? No, indulge, just eat a little bit of this. Why you're not eating this? And when people start using their emotions instead of facts to prove that you are wrong with your diet. First of all, of course, psychologically, why do you invite people to do this to you? Are you being are you carrying your raw veganism in front of you and like making everyone aware and putting everybody down for not being raw vegan? That is also, by the way, I witnessed. Again, it may be good in some circumstances. But in some circumstances, this offering of certain foods may be super screwed up. And I witnessed the storyline with people who were basically, one person wanted to lose weight and the other person was also shaming that person for having excess weight. So the person who wanted to lose weight would ask for assistance to the person who shamed them for having excess weight. And that person would cooperate for a week. But then, in the end of each week, that person would buy a bunch of sweets. That would break the new habit of the person who wanted to lose weight. And the person who brought sweets would be very kind and do like love bombing to that person, convincing them to eat those sweets. And when I'm saying those sweets, it would be cakes packed with sugar and some fats and flour and everything. Not just like dark chocolate bar. No. It was epic amount of sweets. So that person who wanted to lose weight would binge eat because they were starved for sugar for so long. Or for a week, I guess. Would binge eat a bunch of that cake before bed. The next morning, such that the cake does not expire, they would finish the cake. That would spark them to go buy more sweets, and they would have a whole several days of loading on sweets again until they feel ashamed again and they start entering the cycle again. That person would also shame them for being so weak-willed that they start eating sweets again and that they are so fat and so on and so forth. And that went on for years, enabling that thing. So it's important to distinguish when those things, they serve you or when those things are destructive to you. That's why this video is not black or white. You cannot treat this message in a very categorical way. It varies from situation to situation. All of those things, they must be considered individually. And that also proves that there's no recipe that fits everyone, with either verbal or non-verbal signs of that. But then also another thing is, if people offer you some healthy foods, right? Then it may be worth trying them. But again, when you're vegan, you don't think that animal products are healthy. So you don't want them for multiple reasons. For you, they are just like a cake or like a cigarette or like a glass of alcohol. You don't perceive them as healthy. So this may not apply to vegans because they will perceive the cake the same way they perceive meat, or meat they perceive the same way as cake or cigarette. So why do people feel like they can and should interfere and conduct all this commentary towards you? So you need to figure this out. Take responsibility for that as well. But on the other hand, if you want to ever have a conversation with anybody on the matter of raw veganism and why it is right, why you choose it, in this case, you literally have to make it objective. When we talk about the methods of learning about the world around us, we have what? We have arts and sciences. Arts are subjective, perception-based. And when we talk about raw veganism, a lot of people will start talking about vibrations, about some frequencies, building crystalline DNA, whatever it is, whatever new age fantasies they would be. There was also, by the way, one raw vegan in Russia. She had whole school. She had like millions of people following her or something. She was promoting mercury and lead-based treatments to eradicate the Hydra, the major parasite, some cosmic parasite that was sitting in our body, preventing people, humans, from unlocking their pure consciousness. So all of her teachings were, she was all plastic surgery, remodeled, and she was like selling the idea that she was so young. She was literally like from some sci-fi movie looking. And she was promoting that stuff for eternal youth because crystalline DNA humans, 5D humans, they don't age. Right? If you bring this stuff to people and talk to them, how amazingly you feel and how you are enlightening yourself and how phenomenal it all is, they will not listen to you. It is subjective. It is perception-based. If you ever want to win any argument, you need to be objective. And the objective field is scientific field. Science operates with numbers and with statistics. And this is when you will lose all responsibility for this information. So you will be just conveying information that happens to be true, happens to work in nature. And in this case, the debate will be in a purely material field because you are a material body that can be characterized with different numerical units, numerical measures. Food is a material thing with material properties. You have weight, you have height, you have percent body percent fat, percent muscle in your body, bone density, you have all the blood work markers, you have density of hair on your scalp, you have like number of wrinkles on your face. You have all of those criteria. Food has macros that is purely measured. You have weight of food, you have percent water in food, you have vitamins, you have minerals, all of which are measured. And then multiplied by bioavailability fudge factor. This is what is this is the mystery thing, mystery variable that we cannot account for when we are talking about veganism in general. So we have only estimates of all of those units. This is why this statement cannot be entirely true in this context, because for bioavailability of certain nutrients we'll have estimates, and we also have estimates and some predictions regarding our genetics, regarding our individual parameters, our like some food compatibility and so on, food combinations that will enhance or hinder absorption of certain nutrients. So this scientific problem that I'm talking about all those measurable units, this scientific problem is in fact very sophisticated because we're dealing not just with those nominal parameters, we're dealing with those nominal parameters and a whole bunch of hard to measure factors. You literally need a medical institution to conduct all of those studies for you. Otherwise it's impossible. So you need to characterize yourself every day like Brian Johnson does. Actually, with Brian Johnson, I know it's very funny. I would be curious to see what his lab does to him. But you need to probably milk yourself for more blood to do all those tests. Then you can replenish on this diet to accurately measure all the transients and all of the bioavailability and stuff. You need to do some isotope tests when you functionalize different foods to see how bioavailable they are, and then also eat them strictly in combinations that you find those coefficients of bioavailability for, because different foods, again, will be stealing different nutrients from you. And another thing is that I made a very, very good, useful video for vegans about the blood work. Even when you know to test for certain nutrients, there are certain markers that are necessary to actually see the real status of those nutrients. And my video, I bet, is not exhaustive. I think there are many more things that you could test yourself for to establish the real state of your body and nutritional deficiencies. So, but that video, yeah, is in description if you want to watch it. It was not very popular. Unfortunately, it was not a very popular video. I think people just don't want to know that, which is so surprising, because this is literally what can save many years of potentially reversible damage for people. But as soon as you enter the field of science, as soon as you start building your argumentation around numbers and statistics, this is when you will win any debate about your diet. I would even argue that against statistics, I would argue that we need to understand the mechanisms. On the one hand, the beauty, and on the other hand, the limitation of the scientific method is that science always sets new questions. And human resource can only embrace so much per unit time. And our lifespan is limited. Nature is unlimited. Nature has been developing, evolving for millions of years. It had a lot of time, a lot of inertia to develop a bunch of, to test a lot of statistical combinations to find the equilibrium that we live in now. We don't have this resource on hand. This is why for people, using some scientific models, on the one hand, they may be representative, but for such a multivariable problem as biochemistry and nutrition, it is very difficult to go through iterations. It's much easier to look in natural mechanisms and to listen to your body. It just ends up being much easier than that. Much easier than trying to build your diet based on some statistics, based on some very limited models. But if we say that this general population, and general population is one of the bad markers nowadays, because depending on which region we're studying, the behaviors and habits of general population will vary. If we start comparing us against some general populations, I am not going to experiment based on some general population outcomes, with general population being on average drunkards, processed food indulgers, people who live in constant stress and don't know what to do with their life. This group of people is not representative for me. Like, I cannot base my life on those insights for this group of people who does whatever. Especially in the conditions where a lot of people are hooked on processed foods. So it's not interesting for me to even bother to read those papers and to try to derive those things. That's why, again, my vegan deficiency series is purely mechanism based. And statistics that are simple statistics that are based on few variable problems, not million variable problems, where we have very many knobs to turn, but very little controls. So those papers, they don't make any sense to me. Again, they're useful for tracing the general trends. But again, which variable determine this trend? How will this variable change it? All those models, they are, again, have very limited usability. That's why, again, they're of very little interest to me. I'm more interested to know how substance A reacts with substance B. If you are doing something that is, again, supported by science, that is supported by numbers, nothing beats the numbers. And then when you conduct those conversations, you should demonstrate full awareness and knowledge base that drive you to conduct this lifestyle. In numbers, in some simple things. You can always hear what people are mostly concerned about. If people are most concerned about some specific vitamin, because some people go online and they see oh, like 73% of American population is deficient, and blah, blah, blah. And they get like super impressed by this data. They will be fixated on it. So you can take that and start unfolding this issue and use it to your advantage. If someone gives you crap for being raw vegan, and they want to carry the conversation, and they're willing to hear the arguments. I'm not talking here about the like blatant attacks just to make you feel bad. With these people, you probably should keep very minimal and very like elegant conversations that should not escalate towards raw veganism. In those cases, again, make sure that you're not exhibiting some superiority because you're raw vegan, not to make people feel attacked or unsafe. And keep in mind that you are much more than food, and you have much more to discuss and connect on with other people. So yes. But then again, with this sentiment with numbers, you cannot show numbers. This is what I understand now. You cannot show the numbers. You can show the nominal numbers, the presumed number, what you would extract if you were to burn down certain lettuce. You can burn it down and see how much mineral residue is left behind, but you cannot show them that if you pass this lettuce through you, that you will receive the same amount of minerals as you were hoping to. Carry out some conversations on abstract subjects. And when we talk about, again, building some beautiful argumentative conversation with someone on the matter of raw food, you yourself must build this knowledge for yourself. You must be equipped with all the information needed. Yes? Yes, what people usually do is they go to alternative schools of thought. There are many people who are absolute science deniers. There is, yes, as I mentioned, there is a huge difference between different scientific methods. You can understand how things work. You can characterize things. You can introduce definitions. You can measure certain things. And that will result in numerical values, numerical outcomes. Or you can take the population, diverse population, and measure some parameters from on this population and build some distribution and drive some decisions from that distribution. This is a different scientific method because, again, you did not characterize the system very well. And if you start characterizing system in too detailed fashion, then the system will fail to be a system. If you start characterizing the makeup of every person, because you're not dealing with very homogeneous slice of humans. These are two different scientific methods, and you cannot use one of them as a very conclusive and strong argument. And this we will discuss in one of the next videos on how to build your diet. What I want to say is that when people look at when there are people who are complete science deniers, and they extrapolate all science, like the idea of some, let's say, very surfacey scientific methods, they extrapolate them on everything. They read, for example, some website where they list some policies. They read this website, they're like, oh, this is science, and I disagree with that. So they read those nonsense websites, those policies, that again, as I mentioned, those policy-making websites, they are just to cover the butt of some businesses. They don't have anything in common with science. Science is, when you work in science, it's so different from what pop science is. It's so drastically different. What we see in policy-making, it's offense to science oftentimes. But yeah, they see that, they're like, I'm science denier. I'm not going to listen to this nonsense. And they deny literally everything. They're like, there are no vitamins. Vitamins are bullshit. And then you're like, you can actually see them under the microscope. The molecule. The atoms. It's like, it exists. It's material. No, they're all biophotons. Everything is biophotons. We don't need nutrition. We can synthesize everything from air. And you're like, No. So, science deniers, yeah, they go to some crazy things. So they just start eating nothing, just feeding off the sunlight, then consuming vibes, then saying that complete destruction of the body, complete catabolism of the body, is a detox after they've been like malnourishing themselves, starving themselves for like 20 years. Not 20, it usually happens much faster. And that is wrong. And this is a very dangerous thing. Yeah, there are people who will deny all science, like literally all human heritage, all knowledge, all experience, everything. And they will be going on the train to some absolute nonsense because nothing is right. I'm looking for totally alternative thing. And this unnecessary, redundant invention of science, of some new science that is not testable, that's not verifiable, that's not measurable, that's just some fairy tale science like we did in childhood. I, for example, invented by accident, I invented trigonometry when I was little, before I learned about it. But yeah, I was like playing, and then I was like, the word trigonometry science sounds very good for what I'm doing right now. But I was like working with some like variables, some mathematical operations. I was probably like 10. But yeah, that like invention, this redundant invention of new sciences in place of something that already is very well characterized, this is what happens in those alternative nutrition communities, specifically raw vegan communities, which the goal of which is literally the complete abstinence from food and becoming this crystalline 5D high vibrational cloud. What do you need to build the diet of raw vegan diet healthily in accordance to the modern scientific knowledge about nutrition? And again, when you have statistics on how your body changes on this diet, you can convey this information. You can talk about it. You can present the reference ranges. You can see that, okay, this much of population has these values. Look, for my age, for example, I have this level of cholesterol. I have no deficiencies in these and these and these and these vitamins. I may be slightly actually, I was aware of the cholesterol deficiency at that point too. I wanted to monitor that my cholesterol wasn't low because I was actually worried that what if I don't synthesize enough cholesterol in my body? Deficient in something. You can show your vulnerability to people. It also, my cholesterol wasn't low. My cholesterol was normal, literally in the middle ranges of everything. So will be respected, because when you present that everything is like stellar and perfect, then it also makes people kind of weary, because are you lying about something? So you can show vulnerability in some aspects of knowledge or something. So you basically are conducting a very unbiased, somewhat indifferent even discussion, without intervention of any emotions, without intervention of any opinions. And another thing is, you need to show enjoyment, because if you are not genuinely enjoying this lifestyle, people will also sense that, and they will want to save you. And you probably also unconsciously signaling to people to save you from this, because if you are hating your lifestyle, if you're hating what you're eating, if you're hating the results, if you are not very happy with the ratio of effort and results and the outcomes, then people, oh my god, that's pleasure per effort from the survey. Yo, that's insane. That's insane to watch, actually. I was thinking about all this stuff. People will also see that person is living in abstinence. Like, poor kid is freaking like living in this ascetic lifestyle for some obscure reason. So they will try to kind of carve out the information why you're doing this, and will try to offer you some salvation from your thing. In this case, you need to go and find the ways to enjoy this lifestyle, because if you're not enjoying it, then you're probably not doing something right. Because again, as I mentioned in the beginning, health is unambiguous. Health translates to literally every area of your life. Health means that everything is healthy. Everything is pleasurable, because health is like, we seek health for pleasure usually. We seek health to enjoy life. And if that condition is not fulfilled, if you're trying to achieve health through things that you cannot physically enjoy, this means that you're exercising your willpower. Willpower creates background stress and excess excess pressure on yourself. And you are not being healthy just because you're pumping those stress hormones on the background because of some wrong lifestyle choices that do not work for you. So you also need to go and revisit that. So these are very important things. The other conversations related to being attacked by relatives for being raw vegan, again, they all should be addressed by showing that you are enjoying what you're doing and showing that you have unambiguous health. 100,000%. Showing signs of either misery or withering, physical withering, then I would give all right to the relatives, to people who care about you, to actually speak up, because this again can help you find the keys towards salvation. But if you are the person who is deeply confident in what they're doing, in that deeply content with what you're doing, such that nobody has any questions, any glimpse of doubt that you're doing something right, then nobody will ever stick their nose in your life and your diet. And
Facts.
again, another thing, don't be a jerk and respect people's choices as well. Because you're not a messiah, you are a person who chose this lifestyle. And if you want to advertise this lifestyle, your happiness and your radiance and your energy that you can radiate to people, they are the best advertisement of this lifestyle. But if you are trying... So there was a comment on my channel. I don't remember. I think it was video about the haters. And the video, the comment said that it's some like very common vegan thing. The person praised me for my lifestyle, supported me, and they said that people who don't understand this lifestyle, raw vegan lifestyle or vegan lifestyle, they all just deserve to die from heart attack and other things. And I was like so disturbed by that comment because it's just so disgraceful. Imagine walking the earth wishing people who live the wrong lifestyle all of those things. Like, just imagine that you are in the mindset of going around with this like smug face, walking around wishing those things to people, like genuinely wishing them because you think that they deserve it. How does it feel mentally? It must be a super unhappy, some like super depressing life when those thoughts occupy your mind. Like when your lifestyle, when you think that, yo, I'm so happy with what I'm doing, my lifestyle is so brilliant, you're like all of that, and then at the same time you're thinking that, and all of those peasants, they will all just fucking like decay. Like how does that coexist? This to me was very bothersome. And when I started going on the other side, when I started looking into the toxic veganism, when I started seeing toxic veganism, when I was de-indoctrinating, I realized that there's a lot of that. When you are past veganism, you want to save people from them. You don't wish them withering from their veganism. That's the difference there. On the one hand, there are people who want to pull people out of veganism. Like, dude, it's already too late. You're symptomatically like very malnourished right now. Just do something with that. At the same time, yeah, I guess vegans also can say that, oh, you don't understand what you're doing with yourself. So just like, you could have gone vegan and being healthy, but you are not, type of thing. So I guess it can be interpreted, yeah, both ways. That on the one hand, those vegan people, they may try to save some people from their health ailments. On the other hand, though, there is like purely villain attitude there, which is like, which regards, you know, how in patriarchal cultures and religions, female like pregnancy and childbirth are punishment for female sexuality. The same way with veganism, it happens that all of those ailments, they're like karma, punishment for people eating meat. That's how it's regarded. And one of the big channels, Russian channels that I watched when I was raw vegan, when I was indoctrinating myself into that and researching a lot about the chemistry of raw veganism, that person also was like explicitly splitting people and wishing bad things on people who eat meat. Because the message was that it's inherently evil to eat meat, and hence those people will be punished for that by nature. This was the logical chain there. It was not that those poor people, they don't understand that eating meat is bad. When you believe that it's bad, right? You think this way. Those poor people think that eating meat, they don't understand that eating meat is bad, so they're going to unfortunately face some consequences. It was not like that. It was that these people will be punished for eating meat. And I understand that, yes, on the one hand, from both sides, when you understand certain things, and when you're vegan, you truly believe that meat is bad for you, right? So this is a pure intention to save people from it. But at the same time, there is a very filthy intention too. There is a very filthy, proud, very sticky way of expressing that through the idea that it's inherently very dirty. Phew. You're a lesser human type of thing. There's that as well. That pisses people off. Genuine care does not feel this way, I think. But when it's presented as, this is your pay for all of this, for all the evil that you're doing in your life, man. When it's presented this way, then yeah, it pisses people off. And that's what I mean here, that don't be a jerk. To win some verbal debate while not having a solid and beautiful subject to debate around, then you will lose it. Because you're dealing with a system that offers, yes, dysfunctional lifestyle, but also offers some solutions to cope with this dysfunctional lifestyle.
Yes.
There are adaptations for other people to, my favorite quote of mine, keep up with their unhealthy choices in lifestyle. So this is my message for today. I hope it was helpful for you. Maybe it allowed you to look at the issue from some different angles. Please write in the comments your opinions and some crazy stories perhaps and how you handled them. Oh, nice. Look at this. What's recommended? Oh, one of my new videos. Yo. That's cool. And let's discuss in the comments. I think it's a very interesting and conversation-provoking subject. Yeah, it is. So funny. I mean, again, the main impression from this video is that I already was making an internal decision to quit veganism, to be honest. But I think I was... I think I was always ready to quit veganism, kind of on paper. I was ready. When it came to practice, it was very hard. When actually I faced the need to make that decision, it ended up being hard. But in theory, somewhere, I was ready to quit veganism. This video shows that I was very open-minded about it. I don't know if it was just the time frame when I started feeling that it was the time, or it was just a presentation of what I have always been thinking about veganism in my life. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with everything that I said there. Literally. The only thing that changed was that my understanding of things. As I said in the video about quitting veganism, you don't forget what you knew as a vegan. You just learn more. And that other knowledge, that it adds up to what you know as a vegan and your experimental experiences too. When you experienced veganism, when you did try it all, then didn't work. So like an engineer, you go and solve the problem. You're like, why didn't it work? Let's analyze. Okay, it didn't work because of these reasons. Now, what can I do differently? You do it differently, you gain another piece of experimental evidence, and you act accordingly. Then something won't work again. You will go and optimize again. So this is how a person who is unbound by any dogma, by any religious, new-religious beliefs regarding, revolving around modern diets, in the modern diet culture will act. Just simply adjust your methods. And try different things. But try in educated fashion. Again, yes, this is super smart thing here that I said. Study the science. Both your experience and science are valuable. You need to understand what you're doing. The only thing that I disagree here, or that didn't elaborate there, I did not make a very important distinction between the scientific methods. Because again, if you open some policy website and you're like, oh no, let me see what this website will say about this, and they will say that okay, so for most people, like some qualitative terms, you read some qualitative terms and you suddenly think that oh, it's hella scientific. Or when you measure something and you don't realize, for example, you were not presented yet. You did not have an impulse, motivation to look into that issue before. As I said, you see that this kale contains these minerals, these vitamins, and you did not look into bioavailability. You did not think that whatever did not get digested, did not get processed, this food did not contribute to the nutritional yield from the food that you consumed. So you just don't take this into account numerically. You cannot precisely estimate that. This is why the task that I presented there, where I said that use scientific method, use the numbers, is just a non-possible task. You are at some point, at some level of in some pursuits, you're literally bound. You're restricted to only the empirical findings. You need to experiment and see how it works. Yes, you understand why and how it can work. And then this thing when you have to listen to people sometimes. You have to see concern in people's eyes. Sometimes it's not like, oh, he looks so, I don't know, let's say, such flat abs. I'm so envious of these flat abs. I must tell him that he should quit veganism because this veganism make him have flat abs. I want him to have a belly. Very little people will do that. So when you see concern in people who surround you regarding your lifestyle, it may be because they see something, their mirror neurons register that something is off in you. And you see that response in their eyes and their face. Even if they don't verbally express it, sometimes you can see that people are kind of looking at you like exploring, trying to like understand better what's happening out there. Noticing that is very valuable, whatever lifestyle you're on. Because sometimes people see a lot of things instinctively. And you can see that as well in their eyes. And that may save you from some decisions. Leave your comments below. Thank you for watching.